Good morning, my name is Shannon. I'm Acting Vice-Chancellor at the University of Canberra, speaking with Michelle Grattan. Good morning, Michelle.
Good morning, Francis.
Well, the election certainly delivered a closer result than anybody was expecting, and many expected a clear coalition victory. Why do you think voters turned away from the government?
I think that many voters felt that the government's message just didn't resonate. It may be that Malcolm Turnbull's delivery of his exciting times and jobs and growth based on a company tax cut was just too much of a high-end message for many people. I think a lot of voters were also scared by the ALP's campaign on Medicare. That was very effective in the latter part of the campaign, and the government just didn't find a way of countering that, didn't realise that it would bite so hard, thought that it had said, well, that's not right, this is a lie, and that people would accept that. Well, they didn't.
It appeared that voters probably turned away from both parties, in fact, rather than both main parties.
That's right, and that reflects the level of disengagement and disillusionment that we've seen in the Australian community for quite a while, and of course that we see overseas, and that's led to reactions like Brexit and the Trump bid having been as successful as it has been so far in America. So I think that this is a real problem for the major parties, but nevertheless not one that they've got any easy solution to.
Well, despite swings away from the coalition then, it does look like Malcolm Turnbull will be able to form government either in his own right or through a minority arrangement with perhaps Bob Katter. Is Turnbull's prime ministership safe for now?
Yes, I think his leadership is safe. Partly because there's no viable alternative, but you would have to think that in the longer run it's going to be extremely difficult for Malcolm Turnbull to regroup. He's got a divided party, he's got Conservatives within his party who are going to be much more assertive than they've been able to be so far during his brief prime ministership. He's got a diabolical position in the Senate where he will be fighting to get every controversial piece of legislation through, and at best he'll have a very small majority, at worst a minority, and that's difficult in itself. So he's really beset all round with problems.
Well, the Nationals appear to have held strong at this election. How will Barnaby Joyce's role play out in the next Parliament?
I think that the Nationals will be more assertive, more prominent. Barnaby Joyce has been very much the team player since he got the leadership earlier this year, but he wants to grow the National Party, he wants to grow its influence within the coalition, and therefore I think that the Nationals are going to have to be accommodated more on their issues. It's interesting that they did do well. Basically they seem to have held their ground, although a couple of seats are not totally finalised, but they ran a very grassroots campaign, and I think that they saw in the last days of the campaign that things weren't going all that well nationally, and they really threw all the resources they could into their local campaigns.
And obviously that paid off for them. Another issue for the incoming government, the ratings agency Standard & Poor's have issued a negative outlook for the Australian economy. How thorny will this be for the next government?
This is very dangerous because it's not downgrading our AAA rating, but it's putting Australia on notice that over the next 6 months, 12 months, the agency is going to be watching closely what happens in the Parliament. And it was quite explicit about this, what gets through the Parliament. Now, given the state of the new Senate, this will mean that there'll have to be very effective negotiations by the government to get things through, but those negotiations will come at some cost because the crossbenchers will want payoffs. The Xenophon Party, it's protection, it's populist, and it wants results. So that's potentially expensive, and yet we can't afford to have more debt and deficit, and the government knows that if it throws any money around, it's likely to really jeopardise that AAA rating. So it really is hoist on what used to be its old rhetoric about debt and deficit. It's all come home to roost.
Well, it'll be an interesting time, I'm sure, going into the next government and the next parliament. So, Michelle, thank you very much.
Thanks, Francis.
Talk to you again next week.